What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC. Today we're taking a look at Reate's new Exo-U. This is a gravity utility knife that they announced at SHOT Show a couple weeks ago. And really fun concept, one I was super excited about for a couple reasons, most of which really just boiled down to the price point on them, honestly. So I do have the original Exo. This was before they were putting locks on them. I don't know if you can buy one without a lock retail anymore, but both the standard and mini, if you were to buy these retail, it's going to cost you at least $280, maybe a bit more. In fact, this one was from SMKW, an exclusive of theirs. It had the double edge L-Max steel, carbon fiber inlay on that titanium body, and it was also serialized, which I'm sure added a little bit to the cost. So you can see this one was serial number 5, and these were made in May of 2022. Now, honestly, for the materials and being Reate made, that's probably pretty in line with what you might be able to expect from them. But when you consider the fact that it's a gravity knife, probably not the most practical, but also illegal almost everywhere, including where I live, to carry, it does make it hard to justify that price point for what's basically a fidget toy. Now, you can see there's some tape gunk on there. I use this around the house, opening packages, and it's cool as hell. It's just a fun fidget, but really hard to justify spending $300 on something that maybe isn't going to get a ton of use. Still love it, but was really excited about this one because when they announced it, I went down to the comments. Of course, people are asking about when it's going to be available and the pricing. I don't think they've given hints into availability. I saw someone mention April, but I don't know where they got that. But they did mention these would be under $100. And so I actually got mine at CCKS. They brought all of the SHOT Show models that they brought to show to CCKS, and they were selling them for $75, which honestly seems like a really great price to get into a gravity knife without spending a fortune. Your other options before were nearly $300, and so still expensive somewhat for a utility knife, but pretty in line with like the Exceed design or Big Eye design or James brand utility knife. So it's not absurd, and you still get this really cool mechanism, a lot of fun to fidget with, but at a better price point. The other really cool thing about it is that it's a utility knife. So standard utility blades, nothing proprietary about the blade, which is nice. You can pick them up at any big box store or hardware store. And so I really like that about it, but I would imagine it's still legal with that blade in there. It's still a gravity knife, but if you remove that blade, it shouldn't be. So maybe they come up with some other utility blades that are non-edged, like Big Eye Design did with their fork one. This does not have a live edge on it and will fit in there, but they can ship it with something like that and should be able to ship it anywhere in the world, or even just ship it without a blade and should be able to ship it anywhere in the world. Now, once it comes to you, a legality of actually carrying it, that's going to be obviously up to you to determine, but I think you should be able to at least ship it, which is really cool, and then get it at that really affordable price. And so I think that's really cool about it. We'll show how we change that blade in just a moment, but let's take a look at the body first. So this is about 3.5 inches long closed, an inch wide at its widest point, and about a 1/2 inch thick or so. Aluminum body instead of titanium, which is keeping our weight down, also keeping our costs down, obviously. And so this weighed in at 2.6 ounces. There were a couple different patterns, so you might get a little bit of variation on that. So this one has the milled lines. There's one with holes all the way through. They're probably a couple hundredths of an ounce lighter. Probably not that big a difference. And then there's one with the frag pattern that's actually probably pretty similar in weight to this one. I think this one and the frag pattern look pretty good. I wasn't a huge fan of the one with the holes, but everyone obviously has different tastes, so cool that they offer a few different variations. The other cool thing about it being aluminum is they can do all these really cool colors. There was probably like 15 different colors. By the time I got there, this was the only one left. I'm actually really glad Boo mentioned it. He got a yellow one. I'll link to his short on it, but by the time I got over there was 2 left. Both were orange. One had the holes and one had this line milling pattern, and so was able to grab it at that $75 price point. Who knows if that's what the final price point is, but I would imagine it's probably within $5 or $10 of the final price point in either direction. And so really great price point on that. Now, it's more right-hand friendly. I will say that it's a righty model, but you do have a reversible pocket clip, so you can see that plug there. You can reverse the pocket clip over there, which is really, really nice. And I like the pocket clip. It's decent, nice construction. It works well, slides into your pocket pretty easily. It probably would be a little bit in the way on this side, honestly, but it does seem like it at least does it, so that's kind of cool. Now the switch, on the other hand, isn't going to be reversible, and I don't know if they can really. I mean, they can for sure, but I don't know if it would be practical to make a reversible switch, but maybe they'll eventually do a left-handed model. I really do like the switch a decent bit more than what we see on the other models, both the full size and the M locking switch is more of just a standard up and down switch. It works fine, but I like the placement of this one a lot better. It just feels a lot more intuitive because it's where your thumb lands, and so it just kind of swivels back and forth, feels like a natural position for your thumb to be in. In fact, when I'm fidgeting with it, my thumb is always just sitting on that switch, so really easy and quick to manipulate. We can see with it open a little bit how it operates. So the whole thing just slides through this channel, and then when we slide this over, it slides something into the channel over here that keeps it locked in place. The nice thing is when it's locked, there is no rattle whatsoever. There is a little bit of rattle when it's open now. A decent bit of rattle actually when it's open, so something to keep in mind. That's kind of inevitable with these gravity knives. Honestly, we're getting up and down and side to side play. There's not really up and down rattle, but it definitely does move up and down with your hand, and so there's a little bit of play, but it really comes with the territory for gravity knives. But really easy to operate, super smooth. Not a lot mechanically to go wrong. I guess if the switch comes unscrewed, that would be something that breaks your locking mechanism. But even then, we have a non-locking version, and they operate just fine. You just have to be a little bit more careful about how you store them and how you're grabbing them so that it doesn't open and slide on you when you're pulling it out, but would operate just fine without that switch. So not a whole lot that can fail. Now, I already mentioned that it uses standard utility blades, which is really nice. I also think the mechanism for keeping those in is pretty cool. I've never seen anything quite like it on utility knives, and it's pretty easy and safe to operate, which isn't always the case. I've had some where you really have to crank on the blade itself, and it feels pretty dangerous. In this case, it's pretty simple, although it does leave a little bit to be desired in terms of overall durability, which I'll talk about. I haven't had any issues, just kind of perceived durability to me seems like there might be one. And so in order to change it, this is a spring, and so you just put some pressure on it and then slide it outwards. This is probably just going to flop down, so I'll put in my finger there. But you can see my fingers were never near the path of that blade. That pops right out there, standard utility blade, and it can fit in either orientation. There's a notch on here for that to sit in, so any standard utility blade, including these big eye design ones, will just drop right into there. Once you get them into the channel, you put the spring back in, and I'll show this for just a second. You can see there's these nubs on either side of my finger that are pretty small, and basically you just slide them in here into those slots, and you just got to get it lined up correctly. But once you do, pretty easy to put enough pressure, pop those into place. If it doesn't go all the way into place, it won't actually slide in. They'll be sticking up a little bit too much for that channel, and so you'll know that it's snapped into place. And so really secure in here, no issues with that. Obviously still have the play, but otherwise really secure in here. The issue that I have a little bit of concern with is just how small those nubs were when I showed them. They kind of have to be in order for this to operate properly, but I could imagine if you torque enough on this, it can pop it out. Now, I tried doing it with my hand and haven't been able to, which is a good sign. Maybe it's not really a concern. And honestly, for what I'm using this for, which is mostly packages, that's what I usually use utility knives for, boxes, tape, bubble mailers, and things like that. I'm not at all concerned with that coming out, but if I were cutting on some like tubing or hose or something for whatever reason, I could imagine putting enough torque on here that those just pop out eventually, or even eventually start to warp where it makes it really easy to get in and out. But so far, no real issue with that. I just kind of wanted to point that out because if you're buying a utility knife to get on a job site or something like that, maybe not the best option, but like I said, I haven't actually had that issue yet, so maybe not. The other thing I will say is that in terms of the size of the body of this, it is just a little bit bulkier than a lot of our utility knives, and it has to be because of that hinge mechanism. It really just needs to be the size that it is. It's still pretty compact overall, but going to be a little bit bigger than like your Ruck or Big Eye Design or even like Olight ones. They're all just a slightly smaller footprint, but feels really good in hand. I'm able to get all 4 fingers around it. It's a cramped grip, but I am able to do it, and it feels pretty comfortable. You can see there's a lot of like jigging around the handle to keep it really secure in hand, and then just this little lip that keeps you from sliding up on the blade, which wasn't actually present on this one, so that's nice. It had, I guess, a slightly more subtle lip than this one, and so feel nice and secure. Now I do like the jimping pattern on this one a little bit better. So we have all of our standard jimping, but then you just have this milling X cross pattern that locks in a little bit better. So that does feel a little bit more secure, but again, this one feels very secure as well. So not really concerned with either. I just prefer the older version of it. But overall, I think a really cool one. I think going to be pretty popular with them because you can get the gravity knife without paying the prices that you had to pay before. I would guess that they will probably eventually do a premium one with titanium and maybe some exotic inlays, but I don't know that I really need that. I'm pretty happy with this one. Don't want to spend a lot more than $75 or so on a utility knife. I'm sure I will at some point and will eat my words, but for now, really happy with this one, and I think it's pretty cool. Would love to hear your thoughts on this one down in the comments below. Once this one is available, I'll update the description with links, but for now, it's not even on the Reate website yet, so hopefully that'll be happening sooner than later. But thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed the video, definitely consider liking, commenting, subscribing, hitting the notification button. I'll help out the channel a ton. Do have a weekly live show called Just a Tip with my partner and co-host Tim over at Tim's School of Fish every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central. Definitely tune in if you're available, or catch the replay if you're not. Always appreciate the support and just chatting with everyone there. But thanks again for watching. I hope you have a great one. Take care.